Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. You're going to have a look at the weather for next week's 10 days. For today's second video, using the CFS V2 and the GEM week 10-day forecast charts. Actually, we go beyond 10 days with this because the GFS actually extends to 2 weeks. So I'll bring you up to date with the latest developments going into the start of October. We'll also bring you up to date what's happening in the tropical Atlantic. Things are livening up there again, so I don't think it's going to be too long before we have our next named storm. And at the end, I'll show you what the CFS is now predicting for October. Ahead of that, we've got the CFS 6 months look ahead coming up tonight. So around 6 o'clock, just something like that, 6:30 maybe, we'll have a CFS 6 month look ahead. That takes us from October, from next month, right the way through to March next year, 2019. But it is, as ever, just for fun. The week ahead forecast has been released. You can find that video on the week ahead forecast page. So, going to start off pretty cold and unsettled, but high pressure will be back very soon, and a lot of dry weather to come in the week ahead. Have a look at that, see what's going on. So we'll start off by the latest developments in the tropical Atlantic. So we've got 4 areas of interest. We have got, let's deal with tropical depression 11 first of all. So that is tropical depression 11 to the west of the Windward Islands, or to the east of the Windward Islands, I should say. And if we have a look at its forecast track, so we find that tropical depression 11 is currently there. It's forecast ahead there, becoming post-tropical, and basically it's not going to be doing very much at all. I don't think we have to worry too much about this tropical depression. It is producing sustained winds of 35 miles an hour, and no doubt there will be some heavy rain with it as well. But I think it will be very soon be dissipating. Then we've got this yellow X up here, so have a look at what's going on with that one. We can see that that is a broad area of low pressure located 200 miles south of Bermuda. It's producing only minimal shower activity. Strong upper level winds are expected to diminish by Sunday or Monday, which could allow for some development of this system while it moves westward and then northwestwards into the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. By the middle of next week, upper level winds are likely to strengthen again, which would limit additional development of the system as it moves closer to southeastern parts of the United States. At the moment, they've got a 10% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next 2 days. And then in the next 5 days, it just has a 30% chance of becoming a tropical storm. So at the moment, it doesn't look like you have to worry about that too much. Then we've got this orange X up here, further north in the tropical Atlantic. Let's have a look at what they're saying about that one. So that is disturbance free and has a 60% chance of cyclone formation within the next 48 hours. Satellite imagery indicates that a non-tropical low-pressure system is forming along a frontal boundary around 900 miles west-southwest of the Azores. Conditions are expected to become conducive for the low to acquire subtropical or tropical characteristics, and a subtropical or tropical cyclone is likely to form by early next week, while the low meanders over the central Atlantic Ocean. For more information on this system, see the high seas forecast issued by the National Weather Service. Got a 60% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next 48 hours, or a subtropical storm, and a 70% chance of doing so in the next 5 days. And then finally, we've got this red X down here that's come out of North Africa. That one looks very likely to become a tropical cyclone. It's got an 80% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone within the next 48 hours. So shower and thunderstorm activity continues to become better organised near the centre of the low pressure system located around 500 miles south of the southern Cabo Verde Islands, and a tropical depression appears to be forming. If these trends continue, then advisories will be initiated on the system later today while the low moves westwards at around 20 miles an hour. Got an 80% chance of becoming tropical cyclone in the next 2 days, and an 80% chance of doing so in the next 5 days. That could well be our next named storm, and that will be Kirk. If that is named, it will be Tropical Storm Kirk, and it does look highly likely that this will become the next named storm in the 2018 Tropical Storm season. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that, of course, over the next few days. The centering temperature from Hadley next, so it's on its way down. We are currently standing now provisional to the 21st of September at 14.9, an anomaly of just 1 degree above average. I expect this to reduce even more over the next few days. We've got a very cold day at the moment across much of England. Temperatures are barely getting into double figures, and we've got more pretty chilly temperatures coming up tomorrow as well, and then we've got some cold nights in the early part of next week. So it looks increasingly likely that the centering temperature is actually going to go under 14 Celsius for this September, probably coming out somewhere like 13.7 to 13.9 perhaps. So it's going to be in that sort of ballpark, I think, upper 13 Celsius, which, considering early at the start of the month, I think we was up in the 17s. That is quite a significant drop that has taken place through September. But of course, it is a cooling time of the year. We are now into the period of the year where we are rapidly cooling down as we head through the autumn and into the winter. 13 point something is kind of like average really against 61 to 1990, but in terms of more recent years, that's actually quite cool for September. So a relatively cool September on the way, despite what was a pretty warm start. And as I say, very cool day today across much of the country. So this is from late observations from xcweather.co.uk. Most temperatures really are struggling a lot. So just having a look at a few stations. For example, Church Lawford in the Midlands at just 11 degrees Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit. Wittering at 13. East Midlands Airport just at 11. Cosford at 11 Celsius. As well, Lynham at just 10 degrees there, where it's pouring with rain. Benson in Oxfordshire, 12 degrees. Oxford Airport, 11. And so it goes on, down to Boscombe, down 10 degrees. Southampton, just 10 degrees Celsius at 10 to 2 in the afternoon when that observation was observed. The reason the temperatures are actually lower further south compared to, say, the Midlands, Yeovilton 11 degrees, because that's where the heaviest of the rainfall is. So the heavier the rain, the more it cools the air. So, I mean, really, really dismal temperatures for what is still only the middle of September. These are more like afternoon temperatures that you would expect to see really in late October or early November. It's not quite as cold on the far eastern side. Marham there in East Anglia at 14 degrees, Norwich at 14 degrees too. Going up into northern England, Newcastle only at 12 Celsius, Eskdale Muir at 11 Celsius, carry on further north to Strathallan, 14 degrees there, not too bad I don't suppose. Aberdeen at 14, Aboyne at 12 degrees. Then down into Northern Ireland, Belfast is at 12 degrees too. But you get the idea, it's a very, very cool, even you would say cold afternoon. Really, with very dismal temperatures for the time of year. They're more like the sort of afternoon temperatures you would expect in late October or early November as opposed to the middle of September. And so, without breaks of rain as well, it's just a very cold, wet, dismal afternoon really for many parts of central southern England and Wales. Definitely one for staying in and watching the telly or watching Cavs weather vids. So obviously that's going to lower the temperature even further over the next few days in terms of that CET. Right, these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the GFS here on the top, and the ECM on the top, and the GFS is on at the bottom. I've only been using these charts since 2012, so you can't expect me to know what I'm doing with them. We've got the ECMWF on the top, the GFS is on the bottom. Red extrapolates to above average heights, which is high pressure. Blue extrapolates to below average heights, which is low pressure. They're the mean flow charts for the 7 to 10 day time frame, and it takes us into the beginning of October. We find that we've got above average heights over and to the west of the country, with below average heights up to the north with the ECMWF, and so flow and majestic going to be going something like that. A lot of high pressure influences, but not overly warm because the air is coming down from a sort of northwesterly type direction into that region. So yes, it will be pretty dry, I think, as we're starting October, but don't expect temperatures to be particularly exciting. Now, this is the GFS on the bottom, and it's showing above average heights again to west-southwest. And then we've got the below average heights up to the north, and that leaves us pulling in the winds from a west or even northwesterly direction. So again, a lot of settled weather there in the 7 to 10 day time frame, but the temperatures will be suppressed as the air is coming in from the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. Next couple of weeks, we're looking at Birmingham today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Birmingham. Starting off pretty cool now through the rest of the weekend, even into the start of next week. Those temperatures will be below average in terms of the upper air temperatures. Through the middle of next week, the upper air temperatures do warm up a little bit. We're not necessarily going to realise that all that well, but I think we'll get temperatures in the far southeast close to around 20 degrees around Wednesday or Thursday. But that's only lasts for a day or two, and then the temperatures are sliding away again at the end of the coming week into next weekend. And then through next week, which is kind of like the first week of October, it does look pretty cool through that period with many ensemble members below average. And we have got some that are going really quite cold, would you believe? A few of these ensemble members are actually going down to -5 at 850 HPA, which is very unusual to see that in early October. So if you get down to -5 at 850 HPA, it's kind of like one of the minimum requirements that you need to get snow. So I don't think there will be snow away from like Scotland and Scottish mountains through that first week of October. But one or two of those ensemble members are going to an unusually cold level. Anyway, it does look as though the early part of October is likely to be, at the very least, quite chilly and maybe even fairly cold. Perhaps more likely than any snow would be night frost. I think we could get our first properly significant night frost coming along reasonably early this season through that early part of October. Temperature anomalies from the 22nd of September through to the 30th, coming out a little bit cooler or colder than average for the UK and for Ireland as well. Notice increasingly many parts of Europe are also cooling down after that long hot summer when these charts have been continuously bathed in deep red. It does look as though the cool down is on now for many parts of Europe as we descend into autumn, not only in the UK and Ireland, but more widely across Europe. Spain and Portugal, I should say, still coming out warmer than average there, and possibly some southern parts of France as well. Precipitation anomalies are generally on the drier than average side. Southern counties, you'll notice, coming out with average precipitation. That's down to the wet weather for this weekend. But overall, it's a pretty dry week coming up. So that's how the GFS is looking for Tuesday. It's all covered by weekend forecast, of course. So we've got high pressure dominating from Tuesday through to Wednesday, through to Thursday, through to Friday. Going to be lots of high pressure influences. Briefly a bit warmer in the south through the middle part of the coming week, and then cooling down again under that ridge towards the end of next week. That's next weekend, Saturday 29th, still under anticyclonic conditions, but on Sunday the 30th, that high pressure is pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic. And with this low pressure to the north of Scotland, there's a cold front that's starting to move southwards. So that could be starting to introduce some colder northerly winds. So that's how we look on the first day of October. Monday, the 1st of October, has wind in from the north. And it does look quite cold, that, although we are on the periphery of the northerly. The northerly goes a long way up to the north. It goes up to the Arctic. So proper northerly plunging into Scandinavia. We're just on the periphery of it. But I suspect it would more than likely be cold enough to produce some proper night frost there through that early part of October as this ridge topples in over the top of the country. In the more extended range, gone a little bit beyond day 10 now to Wednesday the 3rd of October, it actually starts to turn more unsettled as this low pressure breakthrough. Notice the northwest to southeast alignment of the jet stream, so not particularly mild, in fact probably quite chilly, but with outbreaks of rain moving in from the North Atlantic. And then we go into an unsettled extended GFS range. That actually looks quite stormy. And I think it is the remains of some sort of tropical storm. There it is on Thursday the 4th of October. On the far sort of left-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. That's sort of some sort of tropical storm in the North Atlantic. And then we go through to Saturday the 6th and on to Monday the 8th. And you see how that system has moved in from the Atlantic. It's not a tropical storm, but it is the remains of something tropical, bringing some very unsettled conditions there later on in the first week of October. That's very extended range stuff, of course. East Central Air looks like this. High pressure is in on Tuesday, and that high pressure will be dominating throughout much of the week. So just very quickly rattling you through these charts because they are very samey. And we get to day 10. Which is Tuesday 2nd of October, and again high pressure is dominating the weather. It's not particularly warm under that area of high pressure, probably quite chilly with an increasing risk of mist and fog patches early and late, and probably some quite cool or even cold nights as well. GEM looks like that on Tuesday with a high pressure over the country, and it's dominating through much of the coming week. The position of the high pressure does change a little bit to pull out to our west, allows this rather cool northwesterly wind to topple down from the Atlantic. That's how we look at day 10. High pressure is still dominating the weather. You'll notice we have got this northerly wind pushing down into Scandinavia. We're just on the periphery of that on the eastern side of the country. I suspect we could be importing some pretty cool or maybe even quite cold air from the north with a very subtle adjustment. So the signal is still there that the early part of October is likely to be quite chilly at the very least, but still with quite a bit of dry weather, at least initially, and then later on in the first week of October things might start to turn more unsettled. This is the very latest from the CFS V2 in terms of the 700 millibar height anomaly monthly forecast. So it is now going for quite an interesting pattern actually. It's got this area of above average heights out in the middle of the Atlantic just there, with below average heights over and to the north and over and to the east of the country. So come over here, you can see those blue areas there. Which means the jet stream is doing something like that. It's actually a trough within the 500 millibar flow in the jet stream. And this could well be shaping us up for really quite a cool October, would you believe? So if we look at the temperature anomaly, haven't seen this for a very, very long time with the CFS, but it is now actually forecasting a colder than average month here for the UK and for Ireland. Also, many central parts of Europe are coming out a bit colder than average as well. So there is cool or possibly even cold potential here for October. In terms of precipitation, no real signal either way coming out close to average. But it's really the temperature, but it's quite eye-opening because it has been a very, very long time since we've had a colder than average month. We haven't had one since March. We had the two back-to-back, of course, February and March. And then since then, temperatures have been generally substantially warmer than average. Now, September is cooling down, but I think it's going to probably come out close to average, certainly in terms of 61 to 1990. Might be a little bit below average against 81 to 2010, but we're only talking about slightly above or slightly below average. But this October forecast is actually looking quite substantially below average, maybe a degree or more below average. So been quite a while since we've had a cold October. I'll have to look back through records and see when the last time was we had a cold October. We haven't had one for quite a long while. At the back of my mind, I'm thinking maybe 2012 might have been our last colder than average October. If I'm wrong on that, people will let me know through the comments, I'm sure, but I'm thinking 2012 was probably the last cold and average October. Before that, probably 2008, and 2008 was the one where we had the snow, of course, at the end of October. There was snow at the end of October in 2008, and it was kind of like the beginning, very interesting month actually, October 2008, because it's kind of like the beginning just the first signs of that much colder period that we was to go through from like 2008 to 2013, where we had several cold or even quite severe outbreaks through the course of the winter months from that period from 2008-9 to 2012-13. So it has been a while, I think, since we've had a cold October, and it looks like the CFS is increasingly trending in that direction at the moment. We shall wait and see. In the more reasonable time frame, which is like the next week to 10 days, starting very unsettled at the moment, dismal temperatures as well. The coming week is actually going to have a lot of dry weather with high pressure. Temperatures will slowly stage a little bit of a recovery for a while around the middle of the week before falling away again towards next weekend. And then early October looks like we start pretty cool but dry initially, and then maybe start to turn things more unsettled but still quite cool later on in the first week of the month. Right, come back this evening at 6 o'clock when we'll have a CFS 6 months look ahead just for fun. Tomorrow we have got the big one. It's the 4th Winter 2018-19 update. So that's going to bring you update with all of the latest, and it's a little bit of an Atlantic Ocean special. And also have the E70F and Metro France seasonal model update. That covers all of the autumn and into the winter as well. So very interesting day coming up at Gasworthy's tomorrow. But at 21 minutes, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.